we as the lighting community are very much the stewards and guardians of a lot of very sort of the spiritual entity of architecture and the built environment. You know, without lighting, it loses so much meaning for humanity. And I'm including daylighting in that too. You know, without the sun, obviously we wouldn't have a planet, but more than that, there's so much nuance and, you know, meaning that's built up in all of these analogies with light and, you know, religion, light and space, light and time. And I really truly believe that as practitioners of light, we have a responsibility to, you know, shepherd that into as many projects as we can and to make sure we do it equitably. So like, if you live someplace that has been disregarded and had a ton of negligence, you need that much more support to make it to a baseline that is enjoyable.
Lauren, how are you going? Thank you for having a chat with us. Welcome to Dubai. Welcome to the VLDC booth. You came flew in on Monday, and you got your way through the ThinkLight talk on early this morning.
Yes.
How did you manage that? How are you holding up?
I'm very tired, but it's like I'm on adrenaline, but it's exciting, and I've never been here before, so there's all this energy.
First time in Dubai?
It is my first time. It's my first time in the Middle East.
Oh, okay.
And I've wanted to come to this for a very long time, but it's a substantial time commitment. It's a substantial time away from my family and from teaching and everything. But when Sharon and Martin are great, so when they call, you show up.
Absolutely. So how long was your flight? Because I know you didn't get much sleep, and I have to say you're looking fairly radiant for someone who hasn't slept very well. And then Monday straight into the judging proceedings. So tell us a bit about that.
It's a 16-hour flight. I had high hopes of working on my presentation and practicing on the flight, and then the internet didn't work on the flight, and then at some point you're supposed to sleep because it's 16 hours. So the coolest part of it actually is that we got to see the sunset twice.
Oh, okay.
In one flight.
That is special.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And one of the flight attendants came by and she was like, "Oh, if you open up your window, you can see the northern lights." And
oh my God, that sounds like an amazing flight.
I know, it was actually really special. And I'm here. I brought my cousin, so I have someone to share this with. And we're going to go on a little bit of a vacation afterwards, because the time commitment is so great. And one of the most special things about being here is, I've taught for a really long time at the University of Southern California. And from very early on in my lectures, I've always featured a Spears and Major project in Abu Dhabi, the Great Mosque.
So, the Great Mosque, yeah.
Yeah, and so, to be 13 years into teaching where that project is referenced in every class that any student has ever taken with me, and being able to go and now replace the website images with my own is going to be so special.
I can recommend it. We went there on yesterday. I'm losing track of time.
I know.
We came on Monday. We went there yesterday, and I can definitely say it's worth the while going there.
Even if it was only for 10 minutes, I would do it. But luckily, we'll be there the whole day into the night.
So you're no stranger. A lot of people would obviously know you from just lighting in general. You've been around the industry for a while, but also you were part of the virtual lighting design community.
Yes.
Was it a year or so ago where you had a great talk on the politics of lighting design, and we had a panel discussion as well. If you can cast our minds back to that, but so maybe, we've already had a bit of a chat, but maybe for those of you who don't know about you,
who am I?
Who are you? What do you do? And fill us in a bit.
Sure. Hi, my name is Lauren. I am a lover of light for my entire life. I think that's one of the most actually prolific and individual things about me.
Yeah.
I am a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a really good friend, and I now, in the last few years, have a lighting design studio and research lab called Chromatic, which is where a lot of the talks that I've been doing have come from. And I am a professor. Like I said, I teach at the University of Southern California. I teach specifically in the School of Architecture and have taught there for 13 years. So I teach the lighting design classes and a class that I affectionately call lighting information because I don't really have enough time to teach like design.
No.
And
so they get drips and drabs.
Well, they get a drip.
Okay.
It's like one of those classes where it's for building systems, so it's a third lighting, a third acoustics, and then every other system that makes a building habitable in the last 5 weeks. And then I am a very passionate just advocate for the things that are important. So if it's for my students, if it's for lighting quality, if it's for, the equitable distribution of lighting, all of those things. And I think starting my firm with my business partner, Nick Albert, has really helped, coalesce all those different parts of me into a nice professional avenue.
Yeah.
Like it's really hard to push professionals to think about equity if you can't also incite empathy.
Yeah.
And being able to say, well, I understand how this might be something. This is how it makes me feel. How does it make you feel? And then you can open a door and start having conversations where people don't feel like you're talking down to them because you say, lumens, foot candles, lux, etc.
Yeah.
You can say, I don't feel safe, and this is why. Or I do feel safe because of this. And I wish all these other things.
So you're associating that feeling with what you want to try and actually achieve from us.
I think so. I think part of what the keynote today about was that we as the lighting community are very much the stewards and guardians of a lot of very sort of the spiritual entity of architecture and the built environment. Without lighting, it loses so much meaning for humanity. And I'm including daylighting in that too. Without the sun, obviously we wouldn't have a planet, but more than that, there's so much nuance and meaning that's built up in all of these analogies with light and religion, light and space, light and time, and I really truly believe that as practitioners of light, we have a responsibility to shepherd that into as many projects as we can, and to make sure we do it equitably. So if you live someplace that has been disregarded and had a ton of negligence, you need that much more support to make it to a baseline that is enjoyable.
Yeah. How do you see that could be best sort of achieved? Is it just about awareness, or is it also like, how can we do that realistically? Is that just the lighting designer's responsibility, or do we have to also make sure that other parts of the chain are doing the right thing?
Yes, the answer in these scenarios is almost always yes.
Yeah.
There is no one solution, right? The building doesn't get built by one industry, by one trade, by one anything. So yes, lighting designers can be at the forefront of making lighting more equitable and practicing that way. But funding has to be there. Code has to allow it. It has to make space. The perspectives have to be in the room. It's very hard to change people's opinions if everyone has the same opinion.
Yeah.
So, yes, engineers, contractors, all 75,000 of us that make up, each individual part of the lighting community is very important for making, this responsibility more than just talk.
Yeah. Now, maybe we'll just go back. We'll rewind a little bit back to yesterday.
Okay.
You were involved in the judging proceedings.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
It's so
Was that a
cool.
long day? I know you hot off the plane and it was just go, but...
Yes, so, I thought I was coming in a day early and I would have time to jet lag correct and, relax a little bit before the hustle and bustle of the conference, but no. We get hot to. It was really amazing. I've done judging before. I've never done it at at an international level, and the first round was just so many good projects and so many interesting design takes on spaces that could have been so many different ways, and I've really enjoyed the process. And yesterday was really special because we were all in the same room, being able to have discussions and talk about things that one person saw and valued and things another person mentioned that then changed the dynamic for many of us. And I believe for the first time in the awards, the shortlisted projects were able to have a representative in the space, and that actually really helps because there's only so much information you can gather from.
I don't know if that's normally done, but I think
I think it's new this year.
Yeah.
So in the same ways that an application that the application they provide has enough for you to judge, but imagine if you're able to then speak to the designer or the project manager, and they say, oh yes, the reason it looks like that is because we did this, this, and this, and we also had this amount of time, and that affected how we were able to make choices. And then the project you have a much more holistic understanding of the project.
I guess it's different, like if you're just seeing a write-up of a project versus you've got the person there and they can explain their reasoning why they've made certain choices, right? Because anyone can write a lovely description.
Well, marketing teams write those, right?
Absolutely.
But when the designer comes in and can speak passionately about the process and where it fell apart and how you were able to recover. I mean, I love a good redirect and a pivot, right? Like our whole situation is, oh, that's too expensive. Cool. Here we go. What's this? Oh, you want it tomorrow? Cool. I didn't think that. Here we go. Let's do this. Oh, tomorrow's too late. Okay. How do we get something today?
Yeah.
So with the person in the room, you can have that, and it like I said, it just makes the projects feel so much more real. They're more real than just pictures.
Yeah. I think it's a really nice touch this year. Now, I know we already talked about your your presentation earlier, and I know that the themes of this fair this year are a lot about us being responsible as lighting designers, dark sky, circular economy. With that in mind, are there any trends or developments or anything that you can see sort of looking forward that might be worth mentioning that in terms of where the industry is headed as a whole?
Well, I mean, I hope that the adaptation of responsibility sinks in somewhere greater than just the 5 or 3 or 4 things that you said. Not because they aren't important, but because most of those things get better with more fingers in pies, so to speak, right? So we can do more about sustainability when we address it from every single angle, not just lighting design, but also manufacturing, but also the distribution. Then once we talk about that, we can figure out circularity, because now, manufacturers are already on board with sustainability. How can we make recycling and reuse a part of that? So that's great. And then you start adding and adding. And so it's a layering effect. It stacks
build
up.
On that.
Yeah. And so in the session after the keynote, Chris gave a really great presentation, and he talked about, as cities move forward and we're creating new spaces, we have to be careful to not be obsessed with the new so much that we neglect all these other important factors, right?
Yeah.
That was really interesting, and I think very important as we see AI and the Internet of Things taking off, that we forget and that we let the technology and the newness drive us outside of design.
Yeah.
And Charles gave a great speech making sure that we're keeping people at the center of light. So I think all of those are very, very poignant and very important.
Yeah. I was going to ask, as well, after your keynote, what others actually added to that conversation as well. So good to hear.
There you go.
There you go.
I segued right in.
But like I said in the opening, you were involved with us last year doing a presentation on the politics of lighting design.
Yes.
Which it seems like a far away, long time ago. Do you remember what it was like doing that back then?
Yes, I remember. It was actually at this time I was trying to finish the presentation, and I kept getting caught up on how it's a very short amount of time. It's 20 minutes approximately. And, politics tends to be something that people are not short-winded about. They have they have very deeply held beliefs, and they want to share them and dare I say, pontificate on them. And I really
potentially divisive as well.
And potentially divisive. And I was trying to really think about it in terms of what can we gain, not like I've never viewed any of these equity measures or responsibility as to the exclusion of others, right? Like it's all about including more, because more is more. Like this isn't less is more. More is actually more in so many of these cases. And the view that I decided to take was definitely supposed to be geared towards women and how the politics of being in the workplace and what it means to be a woman in the workplace, specifically in lighting design, which is actually a great industry for us to be in, which I mentioned in the keynote. We have quite a bit of participation from women and specifically in design, less so in engineering, less so in manufacturing, more so in sales. And how do we take this new gift that COVID actually gave us, which all this remote working and this setup, and how do we help women move forward into these spaces with much more grace and not, having to constantly break through things.
Yeah. And initiatives like Women in Lighting are really good for that as well.
They're amazing.
Are you an ambassador for Women in Lighting?
No.
You're not an ambassador, but you're
I have not been asked.
Sharon. So that, I guess, leads us into what we're here in the Virtual Lighting Design Community booth. How do you like the booth, by the way?
I love it.
First time we got a booth.
I really like it. I actually think it's really lovely. It's in trade shows you get sensory overload because there's things, people are trying to get your attention, so there's things flashing and there's color and there's brightness, and it's really hard to find a moment of calm, and this is quite lovely, actually.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of young people that are either studying lighting design or are early on in their lighting design careers, and we've also got, I suppose we can call them veterans in the lighting design industry.
It's a nice way of saying it. The more experienced.
More experienced lighting designers, and we're all sharing, and of course, we're here. Nothing beats the face-to-face.
No.
It's not to replace events like this. But when we're not here, where are we going to catch up? Where are we going to connect and continue that conversation? And I think, this is a great way that we could potentially do that. Obviously, this started during the pandemic when we weren't traveling. These events weren't on. Right? What's been your experience so far, of us being part of the community and sharing with us, and what are your impressions, I guess, a year or so on from when you first shared your presentation?
It's so hard because I thought, gosh, in the scheme of like the whole world, like I'm sure there's tons of lighting people I haven't met, but that time was so stressful. Like I think we forget like how stressful COVID was.
Yeah.
And when I was making that presentation, I was like, oh man, who wants to watch that? Like we're like the pressures on us are so great.
Yeah.
But again, like I think if there are silver linings to a really very difficult time, the gift of the sort of Zoom economy of how we're able to meet and function and now create a whole nother way to work is really a gift. And I think the virtual lighting design community is actually a product of that. I may never have met some of the people that I met today had I not participated in the community and then been able to recognize them when I saw them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I watched your presentation on, this thing in episode 7. And being able to see them and have them say back to me, oh, I saw yours. And
so you've had nice feedback like that.
Yeah, which is great. I love teaching and I love talking about lighting, and I teach students, so they're not able to reciprocate that same passion back, right? Like I'm trying to convince them that it's great. So to be in places, be in places where the relationship is more balanced in terms of interest and dedication to light is really special.
Yeah. Lauren, I think it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I know you've had a long day. It's not over yet.
I'm great.
You're great. full of adrenaline.
I'm just going to keep going until I pass out.
But no, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and thank you so much for coming down and having a chat. And hopefully we'll get a chance to feature you again and work with you maybe on another presentation on the
That would be
community.
great. I would love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers.